1 week season.
OWS fam, Sharp Football fam, the nation, my dudes and dudettes. Welcome back to Searching for Ceiling, presented by 1 week season and Sharp Football Analysis. This, the week 4 edition. We are already through a month of the regular season. We're a quarter of the way there. Thanks for joining us. You know the deal on this show. We are searching for that hidden upside. This upcoming week 4 slate is a very interesting one where, again, similar to last week, all the top game environments are in the afternoon portion of the slate. That's going to be a very interesting aspect of the slate that we will talk to here shortly. But before we do, as you all know, I am joined by the great Rich Hribar. Lord Reeves, how are we doing today?
It's fantastic. We are putting a bow on the first month of the NFL season. We're starting to kind of collect that evidence-based data that we strive for to make more uniform decisions, starting to find those team trends that we look for early in the season. We're starting to shift through some of the noise that may be like a 1 to 2 game sample because, again, just 1 to 2 games right now is, half the sample, 2/3 of the sample, right? And if this was to be week 8, week 9, we'd have another 80% of the games to kind of draw back on and compare stuff to. So we're still finding that out, and I'm looking forward to another full slate of games before we hit these bye weeks.
Yes, bye weeks are looming. We have week 5 as the first bye. We do have kind of like a mini bye kind of this week. We have got like 2 Monday night games. We've got the Dublin game, but bye weeks are coming. We've seen some of these teams are desperate need of their bye week already with all these injuries that are going around. We're getting those running back injuries. We have another slate where there's 2 situations where a backup running back should have the backfield largely to himself. We'll talk about that here shortly. But before we do, we got to get down to business real quick. Over at oneweekseason.com, our weekly special for this week, you can get the DFS pass, a weekly DFS pass, for only $1 over at oneweekseason.com. That'll get you access to all of the late week stuff in the scroll, including JM's player grid, including JM's notes, including my end around, which is game theory focused, including everything that Mike and Zandamir and all the awesome contributors over at 1 Week Season throw out for the late week stuff to get you ready for the weekend. Also, this week, we're giving you the good goods over at Sharp Football Analysis as well. We have a special deal for all of our listeners. Right now, you can unlock all of Rich Hribar's excellent week 4 exclusive fantasy football analysis over at Sharp Football for just $1. So this is the week of the dollar. Go take advantage of this stuff. Just go to sharpfootball.com sharp.football, mess that up, sharp.football, use code ceiling and join our fantasy football weekly package for just $1. All right, the business is out of the way. Rich, again, very interesting slate where we have all this love from Vegas kind of in the afternoon portion of the slate. We've got some backfield injury issues to deal with. What do you see, or do you see anything from the morning portion of the early portion of the slate that you think is worthy of searching for ceiling here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a spot that they're trying to tell us to look right now, but I'm not sure if people are going to get there based on, the strength of what the buzz, the warranted buzz too, I should say, about the Cleveland Browns defense. But we have the Detroit Lions at home in the Dome with just under a 27-point team total. And I don't know if a lot of people are going to get to these Lions.
I don't think they will.
And we have a Browns team that looks like a significant pass funnel, which I'm excited to see play out in this matchup, obviously. But I do not believe the Detroit Lions are going to run as effectively as they did on Monday night with, out Kyle Fanoy, without Matabuke against the Ravens. And it's like the Browns have, they have pretty elite rushing metrics through 3 weeks. They're the only team allowing negative yards before contact and running back runs.
Right.
And when you even apply context to that, it looks better, right? Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Yeah, they played Chase Brown in week 1, but they face some.
He was supposed to be good, right?
It was supposed to be good. At least Burrow's still playing in that game, but they haven't gotten off scot-free, is what I'm basically saying. It's like this run defense has been actually tested versus some good quality of backs. No one's even gone over 50 rushing yards against them. No individual back. So if we believe the Lions have a pipeline to hit this team total, and the Browns run defense is playing as good as they have been to open the year, I mean, we've got this Lions passing attack, and I think there's some sneaky spots here. Because we did see Cleveland in week 2 on the road in Baltimore allow 41 points still and 4 passing touchdowns to Lamar Jackson. Now, Goff isn't Lamar Jackson in terms of being able to create with creativity. But what is interesting about him in this matchup is you go back to week 1, because people might get to this avenue and they look at the Lions and they say, well, the Packers, the other good defense that they played, shut them down. But the Cleveland Browns structurally play a different defense than the Packers. In week 1, the Packers just forced Jared Goff off of his first read, forced him to make a lot of checkdowns. They played a lot of zone coverage in that game. They really didn't blitz. His time to throw in week 1 was his longest time to throw in a game since joining the Detroit Lions. Per fantasy points data, who I know you do work with too, his first read throw in week 1 was 53.8% of the time in week 1. In week 2, it was 68% of the time. In week 3, it went up to 75%. Now, Cleveland is structurally, like I said, a different defense. They are number 1 in the league in pressure rate. They play man coverage to the league highest rate. They are blitzing at the 12th highest rate. They force you to quick process and play more to your first read, which could be kind of a trap here. Goff has been excellent under pressure to open the year. He actually has been excellent under pressure going back to last year. Yeah. Against man coverage, he has a 141.3 rating. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, only 4 incompletions. That I kind of like Lions passing stacks here as a way to play in the early slate.
I circled this game early in the week as a potential, like, hey, we know we're going to get a lot of man. Who are the man beaters on this Lions team? I kind of really like JMO in this spot. What are your thoughts there?
I think, JMO, Amon-Ra, if you want to do doubles here are ways to play it. If you want to pepper in, Laporta's the tougher one because historically Laporta has like really good man coverage stuff. Yeah. But Cleveland has kind of wiped out a few tight ends already to open the year. Andrews had a shot at a touchdown. Grant Delpit made an awesome play on a Mark Andrews could-be touchdown, but it was going to be like a 6-yard touchdown pass. Like it wasn't going to be anything that like significantly altered like a tournament worthy like score, right? And I feel like Laporta could get in the box, but like, is he going to stack like a bunch of yardage, right? And give you like a tournament worthy score? I don't know if he necessarily gets there. I think if you want to do tournament worthy scores, you look at Jameson Williams, you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I'm with you there. And I also, on the spot, I don't necessarily think you need a bring back. You look at the structure of this Cleveland Browns offense, and they are just completely resorting to trying to march the field, minimize mistakes. It hasn't been working, obviously, but they're kind of parlaying the strength of their defense into this more like game manager mode on the offensive side of the football. I mean, you look at Joe Flacco's ADOT way down compared to his previous 5 seasons, where they're getting quick read stuff to Dylan Sampson when he was on the field. Now we're seeing Quinshon Judkins mix in there, Harold Fannin getting all of that schemed usage. So, and there's no pass catcher that has over, I forget the number off the top of my head. I have to go look, but it's like something small, like 18% target share.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very spread offense. So I don't think you need to force anything. I really like JMO. I think you can play him by himself. I think you can play him with Jared Goff, and obviously sprinkles of Amon-Ra. We know what he can do when volume is on his side.
He's been the blitz dude too to open the year.
Right. I mean, dating back for the last 3 seasons, really.
Yeah. Big time target share when Goff is pressured, and again because the first read stuff, right? Like that's what it's. Amon-Ra gets a lot more dialed up for him than anyone else.
Right. What was he saying when he scored that 3rd touchdown?
I'm not allowed to repeat that any of those words.
Exactly. I set you up for a softball. You crushed it. Anything else to add from this spot before we continue on looking at the slate?
No, this is just one that I said, like, because it's very clean. Like you can easily just play your either double stack or single stack, right? You don't have to bring. It's not a full game stack. You can still have your Bears and Raiders or your Colts and Rams in your lineups with these guys.
Right. There is one other game in the early portion that I'm not going to talk about because my kind of what do we call it? The hammer? What were we calling it?
The hidden hammers.
The hidden hammers. There it is. The hidden hammers comes from that game, so I'm going to save that. Actually, are there any other games in the early portion that we want to kind of take a look at here?
As full on like game stacks,
right?
I'm not sure. How are you handling kind of because from an individual piece stance, Giants Chargers has a lot of pieces I think are going to be rostered on this slate. Is that a game that you're looking at potentially even to stack up all those pieces? Are you trying to like hone in on your favorite plays of that game?
So this is a very interesting discussion because I think this game environment comes down to what Dart can do. And you look at kind of the structure of this Giants offense. I don't have a lot of hope for Dart finding much offensive success here. We have a Vic Fangio disciple defensive coordinator. He's going to make things extremely difficult for a rookie quarterback in his first start. And yes, like Dart brings the escapability, he brings the mobility, the rushing upside, but that kind of only goes so far as you kind of consider it in the structure of like a game environment. So I'm a little bit more interested in the one-offs. Okay. I think you can play QJ. I think you can play Omarion Hampton. I think you can play Cam Scatterbu. The field is going to do that. What the field is highly unlikely to do, and this might be a potential leverage stance, is play those two backs together as the clear like value running backs. It just goes very against human nature to play both running backs from both sides of the game. So I think it is interesting to throw a roster or two with both Omarion Hampton and Cam Scatterbu. You're effectively, and you still have a path to both of them hitting in the same game environment, and you get a broader range because of the pass catching chops of Cam Scatterbu. So if the Chargers are controlling that game environment, they're leaning on Omarion Hampton a little bit more. You're not sacrificing as much with Cam because he does have that pass catching upside. Now we can counter that discussion with like, oh, Jackson Dart only had a 10% running back target rate in college. I would think a lot more would be schemed. You look at like, you don't really scheme up running back target rates or targets that heavily in college. It's a little bit easier to attack downfield and take those shots. It's a more open game, more open field
in a Lane Kiffin offense.
Right, exactly. So like, I think that we would see more schemed usage if the Chargers are really clamping down on defense, particularly in the defensive front and their linebacker unit to Cam Scatterbu. And we've seen kind of what this bowling ball that is capable of doing backflips, a backflipping bowling ball can do with the ball in his hands. So I think that is an interesting avenue. And I do like QJ to be able to take advantage of those perimeter corners for the Giants. What about you? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I think it's a game. When I was like writing up like kind of like guys I was gonna have my player pool, I was like, man, is this like a game I should be stacking, or is it a game I need to like attack differently in tournaments, versus the field? And because you said, I think the ways you do it are like you said. If Hampton or Scatterbu are going to be popular, one way to kind of, get leverage on them is just playing them together. And then if they're going to be popular, you can pivot to receivers as well. QG. I do think there's some signal here too, potentially for this to be Ladd McConkey involved a little bit more. The problem with Ladd McConkey from a DFS tournament stance is not only his cost, but this is now a running sample where he's just not incorporated into the red zone offense. And we see this with some receivers that are lead receivers. And it's interesting. Like, obviously we have the big one in Puka Nacua, right? Like McVay can get Puka Nacua the football anytime he wants, but for some reason it's just like, you know what I'm not going to do? Use him in the red zone. And we have Zay Flowers similarly with Baltimore, like outside the red zone. He's like heavily incorporated on the target tree. And when they get into the red zone, he doesn't have a lot designed for him. And McConkey going back for 2 years, because even last year he was out targeted in the red zone by Quentin Johnston and out targeted in the end zone. And through 2 weeks or 3 weeks this season, Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen each have 5 red zone targets. Herbert has thrown 11 passes into the end zone. None of them have gone to Ladd McConkey yet. So it is harder to kind of get to that tournament worthy outcome, I think, for him, even in his what could be a good spot. But there is some signal here, I think, for him at, the man coverage stuff from the Giants being kind of a pipeline for him. He is a guy that obviously roasts man coverage. He's a huge separator. And then the Giants have been so bad to open the year against slot receivers. But Quentin Johnston's price and just what he offers on a per target basis is something that I just don't believe can still be ignored. It feels like people still just don't want to believe.
Right. It's been a slow reaction to kind of what we've seen production wise.
But even not just production wise, like I think when you incorporate the big picture at Quentin Johnston, it feels like something like we should just be all in on, right? Like is a former first round pick, speed, physical archetype profile we live for, attached to a quarterback that fits that profile.
Red zone usage
has got, he's improved. He's consistently improved too. Like he's gotten better, like he's taking steps forward, and everyone's like, you know what? I don't know. Okay. And it just feels like, why? He was cooking Patrick Surtain last week.
Yeah, that was impressive, man. That was impressive. I mean, we can say like he broke like 4 tackles on that play. It was really just like one, but everyone else just around him stood around.
Yeah.
But that was impressive.
He was winning still downfield.
Right. On Pat Surtain, which is very, very, very nice. Just a quick peek behind the curtain into kind of tie a bow on this discussion of this game. A lot of what we do end of week at 1 week season is this theoretical stuff, this leverage stuff. So when I bring up the fact that it could be leverage point to play both Cam Scatterbu and Omarion Hampton on the same roster, if we look at ownership, both of those guys are currently projecting 18 to 20%. And because they're playing in the same game, and because DFSers don't typically like playing running backs in the same game, we can come to the conclusion that about a third, maybe a little bit over a third of the rosters in play this weekend are going to have one of those players. So that kind of dictates where else they're able to spend their salary. And that dictates kind of like what we can do to generate this leverage. One of those things is playing them together. Another thing is like not playing either. So just throwing that out there, like, that's what you're getting access to, that kind of level of theoretical reasoning and analysis over at 1 week season, the late week stuff. Again, you can get access to that for only $1 this week. Anything else to discuss here from this spot?
No.
All right. Let's see, we're about 15 minutes into the show. I kind of want to just go to the afternoon portion. There's a lot to talk about. There's like 4 games here that are all with a game total of 47.0 or above. All 4 of them currently residing 47.0 to 49.5. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the 49ers, game total of 47. The Colts and the Rams, 49.5. The Ravens and the Chiefs, 48.5. And then the Bears and the Raiders, 47.5. And I want to start this discussion with that third game, the Ravens and the Chiefs. Game total here at 48.5. We look at the setup of this game. We have 2 1-2 teams that are Super Bowl contenders, that are AFC champion contenders, that the loser of this game falls to 1-3. That's a fairly big, like, motivation boost as we come into week 4, where now that's a long way to come back 2-2 versus 1-3. So these two teams, we're not likely to see a ton of ownership on this game. Lamar Jackson is not drawing a lot of ownership. Patrick Mahomes not drawing a lot of ownership. And then we kind of look at how I kind of started my approach to this game is like, how is Spags likely to handle this contest? And we just saw last week, he was able to just completely remove Malik Neighbors from the Giants' offensive game plan. And that's kind of who Spags is. He is going to be able to tailor his defensive structure to be able to kind of counteract what the opponent is going to do. There aren't a lot of like defensive coordinators in the league that do that. Lou Anarumo is another, where they're like consistently tailoring their defensive game plan to the opponent. So when I look at like the Ravens, if I'm Spags, what do I need to focus on? It's probably a mix of too high to take away downfield passing and then cheating a safety into the box to get those stack boxes against Derrick Henry. So against that, do we expect the Ravens to completely fail here? I would say probably not. So where does the production flow if they're trying to take away Derrick Henry, if they're trying to take away Zay Flowers? I think Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews are fantastic plays on this slate. What do you say to that?
I mean, I'm going to play a lot of Lamar Jackson. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm definitely looking forward to playing him if he's not going to top. This is also our first quarterback slate where they're all available. You know, caveat: Jaden Daniels doesn't
pending,
play.
Pending.
But but we haven't had, we saw Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. We've not had a slate with all of them yet. So they're all available. We've got Josh Allen as a 32-point team total. At home early against the Saints. We got Jalen Hurts. The Eagles finally got religion and realized they could throw a forward pass in the 2025 season.
It was coaxed out of them.
Yeah. And you've got, Lamar here in this spot with a high total where, because, a lot of times quarterback is driven by like quarterback ownership is driven by, potential to stack and, environments. And that's what's kind of with Lamar. I think people have always that issue of like who to pair him with. And, I don't think you have to necessarily play him with anyone. You've got a couple good ones here to shout, but I mean, he's found a way every week to get to 25 plus fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a game environment where we expect to be competitive. It's a game environment where I believe they're going to put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands to win this football game. So I want to have exposure to him, probably more so than the other two guys. Not saying the other two guys are bad plays. They never are bad plays. But I do want to be more invested into Lamar. He's also run a ton in this matchup. Like, no matter what Spags has done, because Spags has really altered his approach. Like, he went through a phase where he just was blitzing the hell out of Lamar Jackson. And then last year, he was like, I'm not going to do that. Because Lamar under Monken has shifted. Like, if you play man coverage and you want to blitz Lamar, like under Monken, he has absolutely just eviscerated that.
Right.
Like, remember a couple years ago, there was that game, I think it was against the Dolphins, where I think it was Brian Flores just cover zeroed him to death. Yeah. And everyone's like, this is the blueprint versus Lamar. That version of Lamar is long gone. Like, he will eat you alive. You play man coverage and blitz him. And Spags called that off last year. And then Lamar was like, all right, well, if you're going to play coverage, I'll take off. And he ran for over 100 yards in that game. He's actually run for over 50 yards in 5 of the 6 games and over 80 yards in 4 of the 6 in these games against him. So I think he can get there on his own, even through his legs, and offer upside. So sell me on the pieces you want to pair with Lamar.
So kind of went through that discussion, but Rashad Bateman, we saw multiple times last season where he was putting up these 2 touchdown games. I'm saying if Lamar is putting up a score where you had to have it on the slate, where you were not winning without it, he's likely throwing 4+ touchdowns as well. I get the rushing upside as well. His red zone rushing role has been more muted and limited with the presence of Derrick Henry here. So if he is putting up the 35 burger, the 40-point game where like you couldn't win on the slate without it, he's probably tossing 3, 4, maybe even 5 touchdowns. And if that's the case, if this team is, again, we just talked about Zay Flowers, where he's not as involved in the red zone, if that is happening, the likeliest benefactors to me are Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews for that red zone role. This is not like Rashad
Wallace.
Yeah, right. This is not a situation where I'm saying like I expect 10 targets from Rashad Bateman. He's probably likely a scenario in the 7 to 8 target range. We're just banking on like capturing and double dipping on the touchdowns here. So I really like Bateman. He's priced at only 4,800. He puts up a multi-touchdown game. He's going to be in the optimal discussion. Mark Andrews, the field doesn't want to go back to him after the 2 touchdown game last week, but to me that just showed like the guy can still play football and he's still involved in the red zone. If we look at like games 1 and 2 for this Ravens team, in game 1, they didn't have a single red zone. Well, they had 1 red zone touchdown, and then they had like the 20-something yarder to DeAndre Hopkins. They had the long one to Zay Flowers. So like they only had like 1 red zone score out of the 5 that they had last week, or 2 weeks ago in week 2. Was a similar story. It was Derrick Henry scoring from, or in week 1, it was Derrick Henry scoring from far out. But in week 2, it was Derrick Henry getting mixed results in the red zone. So now, like, if we saw last week where it was the first game where they were actually like forced to pass in the red zone and Mark Andrews scores 2 touchdowns, I don't think we should be overly shocked about that. So that's kind of the case for those 2 guys. It's an attempt to say, like, if Lamar was a piece that you needed, we can kind of double dip in that with these low priced Mark Andrews at 4,300, Rashad Bateman at 4,800 type plays.
Oh, I dig it.
On the other side of that, we have Xavier Worthy returning to the lineup most likely. He was a full practice both Wednesday and Thursday, waiting to see the update for today and his game designation. But the field is highly unlikely to go there this week. And when I look at this team, like, they are in desperate need of an alpha guy. Like, Travis Kelce is effectively just like a 3rd down guy and a yell at his head coach guy at this point. I don't know like what's going on there. But like Xavier Worthy, man, I'm okay taking that gamble this week. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I just don't know. So like, if you're going to do it, like, you would do it while everyone's scared. So I get the thesis of playing Worthy, because like, if Worthy is fine, right? Like, if he just plays in full and he's operating as Worthy closing last year, then like genie's out of the bottle, right? Like, everyone knows it. So like, if you are going to be bullish on Worthy, I think you have to do it right now, because everyone's going to kind of have like their toe in the water only on him. So I totally understand it as well. Like the thesis of just, hey, scared money time. Like, this is it. So, and going in on that. So yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Like, this would be the time to do it in tournaments. Like, if you're doing this would be kind of the way you laid it out. like a complete like single entry type of build here with like Lamar, Bateman, Worthy, Andrews.
Yeah, that's I'm circling that pretty heavily here for this week as my single entry build or one of them. And if you think Xavier Worthy is going to be limited in any fashion, I think Tyquan Thornton makes for an excellent play as well.
Yeah, Thornton looks really strong on paper.
Yeah, I mean, look at his game log. If you just look at his box scores from last week, you'll say, okay, he had an okay game. He scored that touchdown from 8 yards. You look at the film, he almost came down with a 40-plus yard touchdown to make it a 2-touchdown game, and then he almost did it again on the very next play where he was tackled at the 1-yard line. So they are in desperate need of like this downfield threat. I think Xavier Worthy can be that. I also think that Tyquan Thornton can be that. Based
that's
on
the dynamic, right? Is I think a lot of people think if Worthy comes back, he'll be, even if he's a decoy, that he'll be a field stretcher. I'm not so sure, right? Like, doesn't like, I think that the presence of Tyquan Thornton allows Xavier Worthy to come in and kind of relegate Juju and play like what he was doing last year, where he's running a smattering of vertical routes, but he's also playing in the slot 30 to 40% of the time as well.
Right. Which again is not a terrible thing for his fantasy upside and his fantasy profile. It just comes down to like it comes down to the thing we don't know, which we can throw in the variance bucket of like, how involved is Xavier Worthy going to be after missing 2 and most of the third game already this season.
But I don't think Thornton gets put back in the bottle either, because he's been their best offensive player to this point. I think eventually it will be, when they get healthy, Thornton will still be in the mix, and he'll probably be in like that Justin Watson role, but better, because he'll earn some targets.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Hollywood's going to find his way out when Rashee Rice comes back. I think it's going to be Rice, Worthy, and Thornton.
100%. That would give this offense the most upside. 100%. Anything else from either side of this one?
No, I'm not touching either backfield. The one thing is like I find it hard to believe the Chiefs are going to be able to replicate what the Lions did on Monday. Like, they're just not going to be, because if Matabuke's out and, Vinoy looks like he's going to be out again, like, they just can't, they're not going to line up and just run up the middle of the field against the Ravens like the Lions did.
Right. And it's a 3-way split backfield, all that stuff.
Gross.
Do you want to talk any about the Jaguars and 49ers? High game total, but a lot of moving pieces here.
If you want to just touch on it, like, we talked about, kind of the chalky running backs a little bit, the popularity. Obviously, we talked about this last week too. A way to kind of play these slates too is to just pay for these good running backs. Like, what if you just pay for the good running backs that we know are good? Right. We talked about last week, playing Jonathan Taylor and just playing Christian McCaffrey, and obviously a lot of cash gamers are just going to play McCaffrey, but we are recording this on Friday before we see the Friday West Coast injury stuff. We still haven't seen Juwan Jennings practice yet this week. Pearsall got back on the practice field yesterday. But, if they're going to be missing another one of these guys, I mean, McCaffrey's receiving role out of necessity is just so incredibly massive right now.
Almost 11 targets per game.
I mean, he is just under 30% of the team targets as a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's absolutely bonkers. So, like, and he's gonna get into the box eventually. Like, it's eventually
he's gonna score more than one touchdown eventually.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you obviously have CMC and then Pearsall, getting that juice. So with 49ers, it's just very concentrated if Jennings is out, right? Like, you have the 2 players.
Yeah. And I would also add, the Christian McCaffrey aerial usage is not just a function of Mac Jones. I mean, he saw 10 targets in week 1 with Brock Purdy. It's more a function of the guys that they're missing. Obviously, George Kittle is out. Brandon Ayuk is out. We might see another week with Juwan Jennings out. So final stamp on that discussion. Christian McCaffrey leads the league in expected fantasy points per game by almost 6 fantasy points per game, which is a fairly absurd ratio there.
Yeah. Like, he hasn't even been great in and like, he's still been like incredible as like a floor upside, like just a floor, like getting you 25 fantasy points.
I am far less interested. I guess we can have this discussion for this game as well. I'm far less interested in game stacks from this game, even though it has a high game total. We just look at the dysfunction right now of the Jaguars offense. Like, the structure, the design of their scheme is fantastic. Like, they just need a quarterback that can deliver the damn football, and they don't have that right now. So I'm not betting on that to change in week 4? Any interest in like game stacks or bringing Jags into this as well?
No. Trevor Lawrence has been really rough. The receivers aren't catching passes. Brian Thomas is clearly dealing with some kind of a wrist injury. I don't know the severity of it. They are not changing Travis Hunter's role. In fact, he's actually played more. He played more defense than offense last week. It looks like Diami Brown is going to end up practicing. He ended up practicing yesterday, so maybe he ends up. It's just a mess. And then the backfield also has. I know ETN's been getting there, but it's been like he's been sucking out the last 2 weeks. And then even in week 1, I guess necessarily wasn't a suck out, but he also had a 70-yard run. So like his usage also is not elite either in terms of paying up for him. And the 49ers run defense has been good. I know Nick Bosa is not going to be available for the rest of the season, but I'm just not excited about any Jaguars piece.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's turn our attention over to the Colts and the Rams. This is probably the game that is going to garner the most ownership. We have Puka Nacua coming in, the highest owned player on the slate, for good reason. Again, this is a discussion like the CMC. Like if we just like play the best plays, like he's very clearly in that discussion on this slate. Are you interested in overstacking this game as a way to generate some leverage for the Colts and the Rams?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of ways you could play this game. Obviously, Puka Nacua is just another one of these guys. Like if you're doing like DraftKings cash lineups, like you just instantly the first thing you do is you just put Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua in that lineup, and then you let the rest kind of work itself out. High floor, high upside wide receiver, even without the red zone usage. Devontae seems to be a little bit, it's probably a little bit of maintenance in his age, but also precautionary if he's got a little bit of a hamstring thing that's real. Could we see like a 60% target share game for Puka Nacua? How high can it go?
I think we could.
I kind of want to go off the script here though and talk about a cheap play in this game.
Yes, Mr. AD.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did check too before I am about to spew this. Alec Pierce did not practice again today.
Yeah.
So looks like he's gonna be out. Obviously, the field, anytime this happens, is gonna want to click Josh Downs. They always do.
But his role doesn't change.
His role does not change. We always try to emphasize this. Josh Downs is still going to be the slot receiver. He's not going to play in 1 to 2 wide receiver slots. It is Mr. A.D. Mitchell. Since the start of last season, he has run a route on 92% of the dropbacks when Alec Pierce has not been on the field. He's also been a huge target earner. He's kind of like Indianapolis Dontavian Wicks in a sense. Like
exactly. That's a very good analysis here.
He's been targeted on 35% of those routes. Also, he's going to get more accurate targets in this version of this Indianapolis Colts offense than last year when he stepped in with Anthony Richardson, where just under 40% of his targets were inaccurate throws. And if we want to reduce that sample to just this season, he's been on the field for 95% of the dropbacks, took Pierce off the field, and Daniel Jones has targeted him on 41% of those routes. We saw in the second half of that game when the Eagles had to throw the football, the absence of Hilow Witherspoon was felt. This is a team that last year struggled against boundary receivers and outside receivers. And you can totally play Michael Pittman in this too. I'm just starting with the cheapie. Right. But the Rams now are 21st in yards per target allowed to outside receivers. They struggle with these big body physical outside receivers. They did going back to last year. So AD Mitchell at his price point is a guy like I'm going to have a ton of him.
Are you forcing a pairing with Daniel Jones? I think
I'm not, but I think that we can talk on this. I just want to again eat up all the shot clock, but I think Daniel Jones is absolutely playable in this game too. So when I do have I think if I'm playing Daniel Jones and not the Jonathan Taylor side, I will probably be doing it as doubles and probably with more so Pittman and AD Mitchell than Tyler Warren, who I think is a good play, but he's obviously tracking to be one of the most popular plays too.
Right.
So I think if I'm going to play Daniel Jones, I'm going to try to do it where I'm just like lapping the Tyler Warren side of it. But I probably will just I'll come in under on Warren, but we'll have some Warren stacks with Daniel Jones too. But I'm going to most popularly play it through Pittman and AD.
There's the news. Daniel's out, and we also got Terry McLaurin out as well. That'll be interesting. We can talk about that initial reactions to that after we get through these afternoon games because we have some time here. I'm kind of with you. Daniel Jones doubles are in play. Daniel Jones singles with AD Mitchell. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with a roster if you play Daniel Jones and AD Mitchell, or that could get fun as well. I think that Michael Pittman is very clearly the alpha in this offense still. But if we compare or if we look at what his role in this offense is, it's a lot like Drake London, where they kind of need volume to rack up in order to return a usable GPP score. His range of outcomes is fairly concentrated about his projection this week. So I'm okay. He probably needs multiple touchdowns. So if I'm playing Michael Pittman at all, it must be with Daniel Jones. That discussion is very different for a guy like AD Mitchell, who's priced lower, and we know that he can kind of get there through yardage on fewer targets as well. So I'm with you. When we look at the Rams, if you're stacking up this game, Puka Nacua has to be a part of it because you're betting on the game environment taking off. And then obviously, there is merit if Davante Adams is into playing Davante Adams and Puka Nacua on the same roster, just because they are such a big part of this pass offense. And like we've talked about in the past, you don't even need to pair that to Matthew Stafford, who looks a little bit off. I'm not saying his back looks off. I'm saying his decision-making, his processing looks a little bit off through the first 3 weeks. Anything to add on that game?
Well, Jonathan Taylor, we didn't touch upon.
Yeah.
This is not just the start of the season with Jonathan Taylor. He has outright led all running backs in weekly scoring in 4 of the past 6 weeks of regular season NFL football. He took off at the end of last season, kind of right after Anthony Richardson was he had the second injury. He had the injury after the benching. He is getting the best usage of his career right now. In week 1 before the blowout, he had 21 of 24 backfield touches. Week 2, 100% of backfield touches. Last week, 87%. And he had those high rates last year, but he was doing that just on rushing attempts.
Right.
And this year, he's only averaging 2.7 receptions per game. You see that on face value, and you're like, whatever. But that is he set the blow past his career receiving highs. He's also been on the field on these passing downs at the highest rate of his career. 75% of the dropbacks, that's RB4 on the season. So he's not in the Derrick Henry zone now where he's getting scripted out, or if he doesn't score a touchdown, he can't have a profitable game. Because if you get him, again, and Derrick Henry's always been like this in his career too, where he's gotten a couple of these screens and stuff, and you're like, man, why don't they just do this once a quarter? Jonathan Taylor's the same way. You want this dude to get the ball in some space because he gives you so many explosives. So I mean, he's a guy too, is definitely involved. You're not going to play the Daniel Jones side. You probably want to play through. If you're doing Adams and Puka, Jonathan Taylor is probably a part of that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think also you can play Taylor with Daniel Jones, so include that in your doubles. I mean, if you want to just say in single entry, I want to attack this game environment, you can capture all of the expected touchdowns through Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor from this offense. So I mean, we have a situation where you can just play them together as well. Yeah, this is an interesting. We'll talk about this game here in a little bit, but I'll go through kind of that wide receiver situation because I prepared for this week as if Terry McLaurin was going to be out. I thought Daniel Jones would come back, so that's a change. But we'll talk about that here shortly. I love it. Let's talk about this last late slate hammer in Chicago Bears and the Raiders. And this is a very similar setup to last week with the Raiders and the Commanders in the sense that both of these teams are really struggling with the deep ball. Are you going back to the well with any potential 44-point eruptions from last week?
Oh yeah, this is the game we're going to keep attacking the Bears and the Raiders because these are two of the worst defenses in terms of outside the Cowboys who are on the slate, just defending vertical passing right now, and that's how you get the game environments, right? So all right, let's get them. And we had that to start last week. Obviously the Bears, they hit the big touchdown to Adunze, they hit the flea flicker to Burden, and we thought we were off to the races. It's just the Cowboys squandered all their chances. They threw
and CeeDee Lamb getting hurt. Yeah.
So CeeDee Lamb got hurt 6 plays in the game. Then they threw 2 red zone interceptions. They had Javonte had the ball stripped from him across the 50 on that nice, his, that awesome run.
Yeah.
They were moving the football though. We were set up to have that environment. It's just that the Cowboys, pissed all over their feet, man. That's just what happened. They just kind of blew it. So these are 2 of the highest explosive passing offenses too, paired with that. I mean, the Raiders lead the NFL in passing plays with 20 more yards. The Bears are third. The Bears lead the NFL in pass plays with 30 or more yards. Neither one of these teams have defended the vertical pass as well. And then we have the factor with the Raiders, like they don't get any pressure. And that's what we talked about with Caleb, like last week. Caleb had his lowest pressure rate in a game since week 12. He wasn't sacked for the first time in his career. Another feather in your cap, Dallas defense. You're the first team not to sack Caleb Williams. But even when Dallas a little bit of pressure they did, like that version of Caleb showed up. He threw for 5.6 yards per pass attempt under pressure in that game, and then kept clean, 13 yards per pass attempt, 3 of his 4 touchdowns. And the Raiders are 20th in pressure rate right now. And when the Raiders don't get pressure on the opposing quarterback, those passers have a 75% completion rate, just under 8 yards per pass attempt. This is a game where it's set up for you to attack, like with both sides, and really attack it through the core of the receiving spots. What I find interesting about this slate in particular is I did not expect Ashton Jane to be garnering so much initial.
Yeah.
So we also have that in play too, as well, like where we could jam up Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers.
Yeah, all 3 of those guys are garnering significant ownership, and Trey Tucker kind of isn't. And I didn't expect that after his 3 touchdown performance last week. Do you have any interest in some of the ancillary guys if you're attacking?
What's funny is you asked me, should we be in on Trey Tucker last week?
Yes, I mentioned Trey Tucker on the show. I mentioned Trey Tucker on the Slate podcast on Saturday morning.
I was thinking about you Sunday.
Yeah, right. I mentioned Trey Tucker in my end around as a potential leverage option to flip the build because nobody was getting down to wide receiver value last week. I played him, but not to the rate I should have. Yes, we were on Trey Tucker. Do you see going back to the well this week, though?
The matchup's there again. He's running. I mean, he's a full-time player. Like, this guy is on the field 95% of dropbacks. He has back-to-back games with significant target counts. I get it that it is point chasey. I do like the spots for Myers and Bowers too as well. But I mean, the Raiders could outright just be, because the pro argument that's going on right now for JT is everyone's saying, look at the matchups that they've had. All the teams that JT's faced, the Raiders have faced, have roadblocked the run in their other games as well. But I keep going back to, well, his passing game role has been just cut through these last 2 games. Like, he's not playing in the passing downs. What if they just aren't a good run blocking team? What if this is just a passing team outright? I opened up the week kind of interested in JT. Then I kind of saw initial ownership. I was like, well, if the field's getting there on a guy that I still have question marks about, I got to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I'm if you were to ask me like my favorite play from the Raiders based on ownership, price, all that stuff, it would be like just in a vacuum without looking at any of the other stuff. It would be Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is the downfield guy, like we talked about. The Bears are just bleeding downfield production. And like, I don't know, there's that weird, like, psychological aspect of clicking on a guy that is priced at 4,200 that just had a 3 touchdown game where, like, you can't play that. It's like, yeah, we can go back there because the matchup again kind of funnels expected production to what he does on this offense. So I'm okay going back to the well.
There's a few of those Trey guys Tucker this week. We talked about Taekwon, and Hunter Henry's in the same spot. Like,
right. Tight end funnel against cover 3. Yeah, it's Hunter Henry, bro. I want to talk about.
You're so indoctrinated to being like, we can't chase these points. We can't chase these points.
Right.
But everything on paper says like this role in this offense in this particular matchup, all again is there.
Right. I think you can go to Trey Tucker. I think you can play him with Rome Odunze as kind of the 2 guys that are best set up structurally to take advantage of this matchup. I think you can play both quarterbacks in this game. This is a game that I want to be kind of over the field on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you okay going back to Caleb Williams here?
Absolutely. For all those things I said, just that he's probably not going to get a lot of pressure. He's again, Patrick Graham, huge cover 3, single high guy. This is why, Ben Johnson is going to get these play. I think that just consistently, if you're going to show single high, like, he's going to get looks for his guys, right? Like this is what he does. And against cover 3 this season, Caleb Williams, 9.2 yards per pass attempt. That's 5th in the NFL. He's got the 2nd highest touchdown rate. So I'm all in. How do you feel about Cole Kmet here with Colston Loveland not playing.
Yeah, that's interesting. 2 times last season, Cole Kmet put up multi-touchdown games.
Because he's the guy, if you're telling yourself on touchdowns, he can get there just on touchdowns.
Exactly. He had 2 multi-touchdown games last season, and that propelled him to a top 2 option at the position in each of those weeks. If you are playing Cole Kmet, it would be like you want the touchdowns, and because of that, like you have to play Caleb Williams with him. So I don't mind Cole Kmet at all. I think Caleb Williams plus Cole Kmet plus Roma Dunze is a very, very fun way to approach that side of the game. You can bring it back with choose your adventure with any of the guys that we've talked about from the Raiders. I like that a good bit, actually.
Yep. Yeah, this game is by far the one I'm most excited to like onslaught.
Exactly. We did a roster build show earlier this week, and I was on him on Wednesday when we recorded. It was a double stack Raiders with a Roma Dunze bring back. Again, if you want to catch those, we do roster builds every day of the week over on One Week Seasons YouTube channel. Go check those out. Let's circle back to the Commanders now that we got some news. This is an interesting spot because the Falcons defense has been extremely Jekyll and Hyde this season, and now they're likely to be without AJ Terrell, who is labeled week to week with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings, again, with wide receivers, cornerbacks, that's kind of like the injury we don't want to see. It's like the running back ankle. Like we don't want to see that injury because these guys are going from stationary to full sprint, multiple, throughout the game over and over again. And that is the most difficult injury to do that with. So I would expect AJ Terrell to be out here. Stacking up this game now becomes far less interesting to me. One, because we're missing the key, the downfield option in Terry McLaurin. We're missing Jaden Daniels. So we're expecting a little bit more of a muted game plan. We'll also have some potential injury stuff going on with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I have to double check his practice status for today as well. So I expect the Commanders to move the football against the Falcons. But this Falcons team, firing your wide receivers coach is not going to fix what's going on with this Falcons team. Like that was a scapegoat of all scapegoats that I've seen so far. Yes, they're the first team to like make a coaching move this season, but like the issue here is the structure of Taylor's offense. Like that's what it is. So I don't know. Are you going to Falcons at all here?
I think I have mild interest in Drake London on DraftKings only, just because of the amount of injuries the Commanders have in their secondary. And I do expect them to put up a fight. Well, first of all, the Falcons have outgained their opponent in all 3 games. Like they have controlled these games in terms of production on offense. They just keep making mistakes that blow these games. I mean, last week you have obviously the terrible pick 6. Michael Penix they have 2 missed field goals. They have, I think, 2 4th downs they didn't convert. Michael Penix couldn't hit anything that was open on the field. But the thing that I am concerned about this game from like a DFS perspective is it's probably going to be slow. There's going to be a lot of plays like Rumble, like they're teams that are slow. And like no one runs a lot of plays against the Falcons so far. The defense has been like more bend but don't break. They're getting a little more pressure. I think if you remove the shot play component from the Commanders' offense, which is Terry McLaurin, it kind of just makes this game kind of a game where it's like we're probably going to see a lot of Bijan Robinson, a lot of controlling Michael Penix while they can. If the game state's in a position where they can control Michael Penix, like week 2, that's how the Falcons want to operate inherently. They showed this like even last year when they were ahead, like they want to be more of a run-based team. So if the Commanders aren't able to generate shot plays, which the Falcons haven't been giving up, you don't have, it's just like, how does this game get there to where we're cooking and we're rolling downhill? I have a hard time kind of getting there. The one avenue would be, like I said, just the amount of injuries the Commanders have amidst their secondary right now. They are getting Marshawn Lattimore did clear concussion protocol. He's going to play, but Will Harris broke his fibula. He's on IR. Trey Amos and Percy Butler left that game last week. They don't look like they're going to probably be probable this week. So maybe that's an avenue, but I feel like this is a game where the Falcons as at home can still kind of keep this in kind of a neutral game script where this game is never really popping like it was when these two teams played at the end of last year.
Right, right. And we look at also kind of the structure of like who these teams are to answer the wide receiver questions. Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane are actually playing a bulk of their snaps from the slot, and it's been Chris Moore when he's been on the field who has been the perimeter guy.
Yeah,
So with
Chris
a
Moore will
team,
be McLaurin's backup.
right, right. So Chris Moore, I expect to be on the field. He is a cheapie that you might be able to throw into your MME player pool this week. We look at the Atlanta Falcons and what is it? I want to get the number right. We have Darnell Mooney, who has an 11.0 ADOT and has accounted for 40% of the team's air yards on only 15 targets. Why is that? It's because this team has the lowest downfield passing rate of any team in the league this season. So when we talk about like taking advantage of the injuries to the Commanders secondary, like it's difficult for me to see that coming into play with kind of how vanilla this offense has been. And I think I said Zach Taylor earlier. It's Zach Robinson's offense, cleaning that up from earlier.
Same coaching tree.
Yeah, right. It's the same. It's a Zach from the same coaching tree. What do you want from me? No, but like, yeah, it's hard for me to see the pass to this game environment taking off. Chris Moore is an interesting one. Darnell Mooney is an interesting one as the guys that are that potential chunk play guys in these offenses. But again, even Chris Moore takes a significant hit with Marcus Mariota. Now that we have Mariota, are you going back to the well? I was all over Mariota last week at 4K. He's now at 5K. Can we go back to the well there?
I'm less bullish this week than I was last week. Obviously, we had the Raiders matchup. I liked the potential to hit a home run at Terry McLaurin. We almost got it. I still don't know how he was ruled down, but they did rule him down. So that eventually took some points off the boards for a couple of my Mariota stacks. Obviously, a la carded him at his price point as well.
Yeah.
But I'm less bullish in this spot without Terry McLaurin against a better defense, against an opponent too. So also part of the reason we liked him being at home was like we didn't think the Raiders are going to be able to run the football. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to have more success running the football. I guess I just am a little bit more down in this game environment, I think, than I was last week with the Commanders.
Right. I'm with you there. That covers a lot of what I wanted to talk about this week. Let's go to our hidden hammers here. I'll throw it to you first because I'm fairly confident you're not going to have the same one as me this week.
Oh, no. You've been cooking up some gems that I love. I mean, I don't have any like great like we off script ones that we had the previous 2 weeks. So like my guy is just going to be trying to get ahead of the Travion Henderson stuff.
Oh God damn it! You did get it.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I mean, because again, if like Travion Henderson comes out and has 65% or more of the backfield touches this week, he's going to be the most popular player in week 5.
And why would that happen? Because this coaching staff is no nonsense, and we had 3 combined fumbles from Ramondre Stevenson.
Well, shit, he got benched. Travion got benched 2 weeks ago for 3 holding penalties. Like, and they benched him. But this is the outlook too to run that gamble, right? The Patriots are 5.5 point favorites. This is the largest favorite, the largest they've been favorites in like 4 years. I saw like since Brady. They are facing a Carolina team that has been low-key good against quarterbacks and wide receivers and have been pushing things to the middle of the field and to running backs in the passing game. And they also still can't stop the run. One of the guys they paid for, Tershawn Wharton, is still not going to play in this game. So like this would be the spot to just be aggressive on it because again, like you talk about the Worthy stuff, like once the genie's out of the bottle, everyone knows. So you got to play this ahead. And if he doesn't, if it's back to being a committee and he sucks, you close the laptop.
Just log out. Yeah, no, this was Mike brought this up. Mike, contributor over at 1 Week Season, core contributor, brought this up earlier in the week, and it got me kind of going down this rabbit hole of Travion Henderson. It's like we targeted this guy in best ball. It wasn't for early season production, but it was for what he can do with the ball in space. And this is a perfect matchup against a cover 3 heavy team. The Carolina Panthers, we're not seeing a lot of ownership trickle to the Patriots. And I think it's because the Carolina Panthers shut out the Falcons last week, 30-0. But like, again, looking at that game, it was the Falcons just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Nothing really the Panthers did special. This is still a defensive unit that we want to be attacking, potentially the worst defensive unit in the league when you add up the talent and the scheme. And we kind of know what we're going to get with the Panthers defense. Like Ajayi Evero is just going to throw a bunch of cover 3. He's going to play a lot of off coverage. And what we've seen different this season is he's starting to roll a little safety help to get those perimeter guys some help. But yeah, like Travion Henderson, man, if we see that Ramondre after a 2 fumble game is the odd man out, and if we see Antonio Gibson, who also committed a fumble, if we see TreVeyon Henderson pick up and see 65% of the backfield, like this could be a spot where he really, really takes off. So I did not think you were going to get there this week. That's funny.
What's funny is I write up kind of my player pool like you guys do on the sites and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is rookie running back week, huh? Like, this is rookie running back week.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I've been going through kind of all the spots.
And TreVeyon Henderson, the last piece of that is probably going to get minimal, if not minuscule, ownership.
Like compared to Scattaboo and obviously
Hampton. Yeah, and we don't like playing the Patriots for some reason. So I really like Henderson. I think you can play him with the Patriots defense and kind of double dip there as well. And I really like him as a one-off. That's where I'm at there.
Beautiful. You love to see it.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add. That was kind of my guy for this week. Any parting shots, closing comments here?
Nope. Another fun slate. Another week where you want to be on top of that late swap action. This is another week where you need to be ready to at 3:30 make your moves. You need to be ready to make your moves.
There's a lot of options, and we talked about a lot of those. We talked about all of those afternoon games. But if you're winning, you can eat up some chalk in that late window. If you need to make up some ground, potentially get onto that Ravens and Chiefs game. Hint, hint. Yeah, man. That'll do it for us for week 4. As always, we'll be live on Searching for Ceiling every Friday at noon Eastern. He is Rich. You can find him on Twitter at Lord Reeves. I am Hilow. You can find me on Twitter at HilowFF. Go check out Sharp Football Analysis and get access to everything that Rich puts out this week for $1. Same thing over at 1 Week Season for the DFS weekly package for $1 this week. Until next week, y'all, we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Peace.
1 Week Season.